Harvey Keitel, Tim Roth, Chris Penn, Steve Buscemi, Lawrence Tierney, and Michael Madsen. They're the Reservoir Dogs.
Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Talk. I'm John, and today we're here to talk about the 1992 Quentin Tarantino written and directed Reservoir Dogs. We're also here to talk about its brand new Lionsgate 4K Blu-ray release that just came out. But before we dive into that, if you are a fan of 4K Blu-ray reviews, movie reviews, tech and game reviews, nothing would help us out more than by you liking this video and subscribing to the channel. So Reservoir Dogs, like I said, is written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. It stars Tim Roth, Harvey Keitel, Michael Madsen, Steve Buscemi, Chris Penn, Eddie Bunker, Tarantino himself is in this, and Lawrence Tierney as Joe. He's the guy who actually puts this entire crew together. So Reservoir Dogs is one of the most famous and probably the greatest independent film ever released. Harvey Keitel got a hold of Quentin Tarantino's script. He helped fund this film because this film was originally only supposed to be a short shot in black and white. Quentin Tarantino famously worked at a video store for a really long time. His dream was to become a filmmaker. Harvey Keitel helped see his dream come through, and he starred in this movie for him, and it shot Quentin Tarantino into superstardom. Quentin Tarantino is actually my favorite director of all time. Pulp Fiction is one of my favorite films. It's actually my second favorite film ever, behind only The Terminator. I think that movie is a masterpiece. It's one of the movies that got me to really love and cherish film, and Reservoir Dogs is right up there for me on my Tarantino list as well. I think it's an amazing debut. It's shot beautifully. The way that Tarantino moves this camera around in this film is great, because this movie is told non-linearly. We open up in the movie, it's about a diamond heist that goes wrong. Someone is a rat. Someone set these guys up, and they went to go do this robbery. It was supposed to be 2 minutes, in and out, get the diamonds, get out of there. But unfortunately, when they got there, as Steve Buscemi's Mr. Pink says, the cops were waiting. Someone tipped them off, and they're trying to figure out who the rat is. Is it Tim Roth, played by Mr. Orange? And spoiler alert, if you guys have seen this film, it is Tim Roth. He's the cop. He's the inside guy. He's Freddy. But then you got Larry, Mr. White, played by Harvey Keitel. He's friends with Mr. Orange, and Mr. Orange unfortunately got shot in the robbery just by a woman who, wouldn't you shoot him too? They're trying to steal his car. They don't know that he's a cop. They just see that these people are trying to steal her car, and she shoots him, and that ends up actually, that's one of the most iconic scenes, is the opening of this movie.
It's gonna be okay! Say the goddamn words, you're gonna be okay!
Movie right after the diner scene where, Quentin Tarantino sitting at the table talking about Like a Virgin and what the meaning of that song is. Again, an iconic scene. Tarantino knows how to write dialogue. I mean, his screenplays are just masterpieces. Watching this again last night, just the little things that you pick up for, because in Pulp Fiction, Jack Rabbit Slim's is the restaurant they go to. You could actually hear an ad for Jack Rabbit Slim's because they have a radio station playing the entire time. K. Billy's Super Sounds of the 70s is playing through the entire weekend, they say, on the radio station. So everybody's listening to it. So the editing is incredible also, because every time you're in somebody's car, they got K. Billy on, or if they're in somebody's house or in the warehouse, K. Billy is on. So you'll be cutting between scenes and they're listening to the same song on the radio, which is just incredible. That actually leads me to my favorite scene in the movie. And no, it's not the stuck in the middle with you scene where Michael Madsen's Mr. Blonde cuts off that cop's ears. It's actually right before that where we first see that Tarantino trunk shot when they pull the cop out. I Got You by Joe Tex starts playing, and they're cutting between Chris Penn, who's going to the warehouse. I think he's on the phone with his dad explaining what happened.
All I know is what Vic told me.
So they're cutting between that, and they're cutting between them just beating up this cop, and they got this song, I Got You, playing the whole time. And the way that's edited, because it's on the radio in Chris Penn's car, and it's playing in the warehouse, is just amazing. And they do this throughout the movie, because a lot of people have always asked, does Steve Buscemi get away in the end? No, if you actually listen closely at the very end, he gets caught in the parking lot. I'm not too sure if they shot or killed him, but he definitely gets caught. He doesn't get away with the diamonds at all, even though it might seem like that after Chris Penn's nice guy Eddie, his father Joe, Harvey Keitel shoot each other, and then Harvey Keitel finds out because Mr. Orange tells him that he's a cop, kills him too. So it's just that amazing editing. Every little attention to detail was paid attention to this, and for your first film debut, Quentin Tarantino knocked it out of the park. There's a reason why he's still one of the most cherished directors that we have today. He has never missed for me. I know a lot of people will say Death Proof isn't a great movie, and I agree. It's not a great movie. But it's still watchable, it's still fun. Quentin Tarantino knows how to make a movie. He knows how to get the best out of his actors. Everybody seems like they're really into their roles. You know, these guys are bad guys, but they're just so cool. The suits they wear, the sunglasses. I wanted to wear that suit with those sunglasses at my wedding, but my wife wouldn't let me. I just thought that those suits were the coolest thing. The opening credits when they're just walking, there's nothing cooler than that. And it's just because of the choice of the soundtrack. The soundtrack is incredible. They actually have the K-Billy sounds of the 70s playing throughout the entire movie. Is just a genius choice, and Quentin Tarantino has said it helps to juxtapose with, the extreme violence in this movie, because this movie, Tarantino, he does blood and violence so well. Again, the attention to detail. Just Mr. Orange's Tim Roth's shirt is soaked in blood. You never really notice how soaked in blood it really is, but it's like, yeah, this guy is not going to live. The car is just covered in blood, and Harvey Keitel telling him, like, you're going to be all right. I don't think he believes it, because he's pretty messed up. I love Reservoir Dogs. If you've never seen Reservoir Dogs, I can promise you, you're going to have a great time. Fun movie. It's extremely violent. The language might not be for everyone, so if you haven't seen this movie and you're going into it completely blind, because I imagine in 1992, this movie really did surprise people, and obviously at the Sundance Film Festival, this was the movie that everyone was talking about at a very iconic 1992 Sundance Film Festival, so that should really tell you something. And there's a reason why this film is as iconic as it is today, and that's why we're here today to talk about its brand new Lionsgate 4K Blu-ray release. So, Lionsgate has just released its brand new 4K Blu-ray. Now, I opted to get the steelbook, but there is also a slipcover version of this. So, the steelbook, as you can see, it slips off. You get that iconic scene, what's stuck in the middle with you, where the ear peels off the cop. That's the cop right there. On the steelbook, you could actually see that's all the cast members from the opening iconic scene, and that's the cops here, with the blood dripping down into them. Then you turn it around, they're in the warehouse. You open it up. And this I actually truly love. The disc design is phenomenal. I love the colors. They all pop. I love that the Blu-ray is in white and the 4K is in black. I love the interior design of this case. But I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not completely in love with this steelbook. I actually think I would have opted to get the slipcover. I like the red and white slipcover. I think it looked a lot better than what this looks like. I just think that there's too much going on. I get that the ear is the most iconic scene in the movie, but I don't know if I would have leaned into that on the steelbook. It's a minor complaint though. It's the only part of the steelbook I don't like. I love that they're doing these Lionsgate slip covers over the steelbook. I think they did a nice job with that. I do think that it's it's an original idea. It's really cool that the ear slides up and down, but it doesn't entirely work for me. If it was up to me, my personal choice would be to get the slip cover, but it's entirely up to you. I know that this art design is going to work more for others than me. It's really just personal preference. I'm just not a huge fan of it, but I am glad that I have it, and like I said, that disc design is beautiful. Now, the biggest upgrade you're going to see, so I compared this to my 2014 Blu-ray, and let me just say, the visual upgrade is incredible. It is going to be one of the biggest jumps you've ever seen from Blu-ray to 4K. The visuals are just absolutely stunning. Things that you've never even noticed before are just going to pop in this movie now. Just in the opening diner scene, you never really pay attention to the outside of the diner because the colors are pretty flat, and throughout, obviously the warehouse is pretty flat colored. It's just got that like mint faded green and grays, but when they're out in the world, especially like in the opening, like I said, in the diner, and you're just looking in the background, and there's like this pink and silver awning, and it just pops. It's beautiful. Anytime we get flashbacks to when Tim Roth is training to be this undercover cop, and he's outside in the world, he's telling the commode story, all those colors just pop off the screen. When they're in the diner, him and his, I guess, partner or his handler, it's just amazing the amount of colors that pop. The blood on Tim Roth's clothes is incredible. It's amazing. The skin tones, that's they got it. It's completely realistic. Like, you see the sweat on these guys, you see the blood, the moisture, everything just looks dirty and disgusting with these guys in the warehouse. And now that all that stuff just pops off your screen, I can't even explain to you how big of an upgrade it really is. You have to see it for yourself, because I was doing back-to-backs where I'd put the Blu-ray in on a scene, then I'd put the 4K in on a scene, and just things that never really stuck out just stick out now. There's a scene early in the movie when they're shooting down a hallway, and you just notice the reflections off the tile now. And again, like, this movie is so well shot, so it's really cool to see, because there's a lot of handheld or tracking shots where they do flashbacks to the actual robbery, because we don't see the robbery, we only see after the robbery. So those tracking shots now, and you see all those cars and all the people, you see the police cars. Now all that stuff pops off your screen. Now, the look he was going for was for it to feel like a 70s movie, and he nailed that. And now you really can see what he was going for, wise is as far as the colors, the tone of the film. Now nothing is being compressed. This is the definitive version of this visually that you are ever going to see. It really does just pop off your screen. I hope I'm not selling it too short, because it really is just a huge upgrade from Blu-ray to 4K. Is it the greatest 4K? No, but it is one of the biggest jumps I have ever seen from Blu-ray to 4K. And they still kept that feeling of the film. You didn't lose it. It doesn't feel brand new. It still feels like Reservoir Dogs. It still has that almost 70s tone that Quentin Tarantino was going for. It's all here. You're gonna still feel it. They didn't lose it, and that's always a concern with me with 4Ks, is that sometimes we lose that feeling from when we originally saw it, and that's not here at all. And another thing that really helps to assist that is the new Dolby True HD 5.1. There is no Dolby Atmos track. It's just this Dolby 5.1 on here. And I thought it sounded really, really good. Obviously, there's a lot of music in Tarantino's movie. This one, like I said, having K. Billy's super sounds of the 70s playing throughout the entire film. All of those tracks pop. The dialogue is crystal clear. You never have to worry about the dialogue being too low compared to the action that's going on. Everything sounds like the levels are perfect throughout this. It gets a little bit louder when the needle drops happen, and that is fine. I love that. I thought it sounded phenomenal. I thought this was definitely one of the better non-Atmos tracks you can get. Now, it's not in a real heavy action movie, so don't expect explosions, you know. It's mostly a dialogue-driven film. That's what all Tarantino's movies are, with some action to help guide the story along. But really, it's mostly a dialogue-driven film, so you want to make sure that that dialogue comes crystal clear, and they nailed it. And also, those audio tracks do sound great. Now, as far as extras go, no new extras. That has been one of the most disappointing things about any studio release, is all the extras on here are the exact same extras from my previous 2014 Blu-ray. Now, there is a Blu-ray in here, and I believe it's just this new version compressed, because it did look a little bit different than my Blu-ray from before, and there is a new menu in there. Just having no new extras is a little bit frustrating, and it does bother me, because I would love a new 30 years retrospective looking back on Reservoir Dogs, maybe getting some interviews with Harvey Keitel and Tim Roth, and finding out what their thoughts were on the film. Steve Buscemi, I know he would probably love to talk about it. Steve Buscemi is an amazing, underrated actor. Would love to get his thoughts on Reservoir Dogs, because I believe that this is one of the films that really helped to put him on the map as a great actor. But unfortunately, we don't get that. Maybe one day we will, but it's not available on this 4K disc or on the Blu-ray disc. It's just the same extras you've already had. So what would I rate this overall out of 10? I'm going to be honest. I'm going to give this a really solid 9 out of 10. I do think that this is one of the biggest visual jumps you are ever going to see. The soundtrack is great. The packaging, even if it's not my favorite on this steelbook, is still very well done. Somebody put a lot of thought into making this and making it look nice. That slipcover is really nice, so even though I don't have it right now to compare it to, it does look really nice, and I think if you're a fan of this, I would opt for that, but it doesn't mean... It's really just going to come down to personal preference if you want the steelbook or if you want the slipcover version. And then the complete lack of any new extras is frustrating, and that's the biggest flaw to this. But other than that, this is a great, great upgrade. It is the new definitive edition of Reservoir Dogs. If you can grab this right now at the full price, it's totally worth it. But if you can get it on sale, maybe around Black Friday, if it does drop in price because it is a studio release, I do think that it's definitely worth it. It's going to replace any of your previous editions, whether it be VHS, DVD, or Blu-ray. This is the brand new definitive edition of Reservoir Dogs. And if you want to grab this from Amazon, we will leave our Amazon affiliate link in the description below. It costs no extra money for you, and it really does help the channel out. And another thing that really helps the channel out is you liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and going out and telling all your friends.